Welcome to our podcast, and this week at London Visited, we go to Fleet Street to tell you all about this iconic part of London. My name's Steve, and each week I'll bring to you the facts, history and information about different parts of this great capital. If you've been to London, are planning on visiting, live here or just love London from afar, then this is the podcast for you. Also, don't forget to visit our YouTube channel, London Visited, to see videos covering this place and so many others across London. This week's podcast is a request, and if you'd like to put in a request for future podcasts, please contact us and I'll give you the details at the end of today's podcast. And now, to this week's podcast. Fleet Street is a major street mostly in the City of London. It runs west to east from Temple Bar, at the boundary with the City of Westminster, to Ludgate Circus at the site of the London Wall, and the River Fleet, from which the street was named. Having been an important through route since Roman times, businesses were established along the road during the Middle Ages. Senior clergy lived in Fleet Street during this period, where there were several churches including Temple Church and St Bride's. Fleet Street became known for printing and publishing at the start of the 16th century, and it became the dominant trade, so that by the 20th century, most British national newspapers operated from here. Much of the industry moved out in the 1980s after News International set up a cheaper manufacturing premises in Wapping. But some former newspaper buildings are listed and have been preserved. The term Fleet Street remains a metonym for the British national press, and pubs on the street once frequented by journalists remain popular. Fleet Street has a significant number of monuments and statues along its length, including the Dragon at Temple Bar and memorials to a number of figures from the British press, such as Samuel Pepys and Lord Northcliffe. The street is mentioned in several works by Charles Dickens and is the home of the fictional murderer, Sweeney Todd. Fleet Street, named after the River Fleet, which runs from Hampstead to the River Thames at the western edge of the City of London. It is one of the oldest roads outside the original city and was established by the Middle Ages. In the 13th century, it was known as Fleet Bridge Street, and in the early 14th century, it became known as Fleet Street. Running from Temple Bar, the boundary between the cities of London and Westminster, as a continuation of the Strand from Trafalgar Square, it crosses Chancery Lane and Fetter Lane to reach Ludgate Circus by the London Wall. The road ahead is Ludgate Hill. It links the Roman and medieval boundaries of the city after the latter was extended. Underground stations that are close to Fleet Street are Temple, Chancery Lane and Blackfriars. Fleet Street was established as a thoroughfare in Roman London, and there's evidence that a route led west from Ludgate by 200 AD. Local excavations revealed remains of a Roman amphitheatre near Ludgate on what was Fleet Prison, but other accounts suggest the area was too marshy for regular inhabitation by the Romans. The Saxons did not occupy the Roman city, but established Lundenwig, further west about what is now known as Aldwych and the Strand. Many religious people lived around the street during the Middle Ages, including the bishops of Salisbury and St David's and the abbots of Faversham, Tewkesbury, Winchcombe and Cirencester. Tanning of animal hides became established on Fleet Street owing to the nearby river, though this increased population leading to a ban on dumping rubbish by the mid-14th century. Many taverns and brothels were established along Fleet Street and have been documented as early as the 14th century. Records show that Geoffrey Chaucer was fined 2 shillings for attacking a friar in Fleet Street. An important landmark in Fleet Street during the late Middle Ages was a conduit that led the main water supply for the area. When Anne Boleyn was crowned queen following her marriage to Henry VIII in 1533, the conduit flowed wine instead of water. By the 16th century, Fleet Street, along with much of the city, was chronically overcrowded, and a royal proclamation in 1580 banned any further building on the street. This had little effect, and construction continued, in particular timber. Prince Henry's room over the inner Temple Gate dates from 1610 and is named after Henry Frederick, Prince of Wales, eldest son of James I, who did not survive to succeed his father. The eastern part of the street was destroyed by the Great Fire of London in 1666, despite attempts to use the River Fleet to preserve it. Fire damage reached to about Fetter Lane, and a special tribunal of the fire courts was held at Clifford's Inn, an inn of chancery at the edge of the extent of the fire, to arbitrage on claimants' rights. Properties were rebuilt in the same style as before the fire. During the early 18th century, a notorious upper-class gang known as the Mohawks operated on the street, causing regular violence and vandalism. Mrs. Solomon's Waxworks was established at Prince Henry's room in 1711. It had a display of macabre and black-humoured exhibits, including the execution of Charles I, a Roman lady, Hermione, whose father survived a sentence of starvation by suckling her breast, and a woman who gave birth to 365 children simultaneously. The waxworks were a favourite haunt of William Hogarth, who survived into the 19th century. The Apollo Society, a music club, was established in 1733 at the Devil Tavern on Fleet Street by composer Maurice Greene. In 1763, supporters of John Wilkes, who had been arrested for libel against the Earl of Bute, turned a jackboot into the centre of the street in protest against Bute. It led to violent demonstrations and rioting in 1769 and 1794. Tanning and other industries declined sharply after the River Fleet was routed underground in 1766. The street was widened through the late 19th century, when Temple Bar was demolished and Ludgate Circus was constructed. The headquarters of the Anti-Corn Law League were based at number 67 Fleet Street, and a blue plaque marks the location. Publishing started in Fleet Street around 1500, when William Caxton's apprentice, Wilkin de Ward, set up a printing shop near Shoe Lane, while, at around the same time, Richard Pinson set up as a publisher and printer next to St Dunstan's Church. More printers and publishers followed, mainly supplying the legal trade in the four Inns of Court around the area, but also publishing books and plays. In March 1702, the first issue of London's first daily newspaper, the London Courant, was published in Fleet Street. It was followed by the Morning Chronicle. The publisher, John Murray, was founded at number 32 Fleet Street in 1762 and remained there until 1812, when it moved to Albemarle Street. The popularity of newspapers was restricted due to the various taxes during the early 19th century, particularly paper duty. Pill's Coffee House at number 177 to 8 Fleet Street became popular and was the main committee room for the Society of repealing the paper duty, starting in 1858. The society was successful and the duty was abolished in 1861. Along with the repeal of the newspaper tax in 1855, this led to a dramatic expansion of newspaper production in Fleet Street. The penny press, newspapers costing 1 penny, became popular during the 1880s, and the initial number of titles had consolidated into a few nationally important ones. Hi there, and thanks so much for listening to this podcast on the history of London. And if you're enjoying this, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Now, if you want to get more involved with London Visited, don't forget you can join us as a member by going to patreon.com/London Visited with so many different benefits. Or you could purchase a 4K photograph of London from our website, londonvisited.co.uk, both of which support us and keep the channel going. Once again, thanks for listening. And now, back to the podcast. By the 20th century, Fleet Street and the area surrounding it were dominated by the national press and regulated industries. The Daily Express relocated to number 121 to 128 Fleet Street in 1931, into a building designed by Sir Owen Williams. It was the first curtain wall building in London. It has survived the departure of the newspaper in 1989 and was restored in 2001. The Daily Telegraph was based at 135 to 142. These premises are both Grade 2 listed. In the 1930s, number 67 housed 25 separate publications. By this time, the majority of British households bought a daily newspaper produced from Fleet Street. In 1986, News International owner Rupert Murdoch caused controversy when he moved publication of the Times and the Sun away from Fleet Street to new premises in Wapping, East London. Murdoch believed it was impossible to produce a newspaper profitably on Fleet Street, and the power of the print unions, the National Geographic Association, NGA, and the Society of Graphical and Allied Trades, SOGAT, was too strong, an opinion endorsed by the Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. All Fleet Street print staff were sacked, and new staff from the Electrical, Electronic, Telecommunications and Plumbing Union were brought in to operate the presses at Wapping using modern computer-operated technology, rendering the power of the old unions obsolete. The resulting Wapping dispute featured violent protests at Fleet Street and Wapping that lasted over a year, but ultimately other publishers followed suit and moved out of Fleet Street towards Canary Wharf or Southwark. Reuters was the last major news outlet to leave Fleet Street in 2005. The same year, the Daily and Sunday Telegraph announced they were going to return to the centre of London, from Canary Wharf to new premises in Victoria in 2006. Some publishers remained on Fleet Street. The London office of D.C. Thompson & Co., creator of the Beano, is at number 185. The Secretariat of the Commonwealth Broadcasting Association is at number 17, as is Wentworth Publishing, an independent publisher of newsletters and courses. The Associated Press has an office at Fleet Street, as did the Jewish Chronicle until 2013 when it moved to Golders Green. The British Association of Journalists is based at number 89, while Metro International are based at number 85. Though many prominent national newspapers have moved away from Fleet Street, the name is still synonymous with the printing and publishing industry. In the adjacent St Bride's Church is the St Bride Library, holding a specialist collection related to the type and print industry and providing courses in printing technology and methods. On the wall of Magpie Alley, off Bouvier Street, is a mural depicting the history of newspapers in the area. In the High Middle Ages, senior clergymen had their London palaces in the street. Place names surviving with this connection are Peterborough Court and Salisbury Court, after their respective bishops' houses here. Apart from the Knights Templars established the Whitefriars Monastery, is recalled by Whitefriars Street, and the remains of the Undercroft have been preserved in a public display area. A Carmelite church was established on Fleet Street in 1253, but it was destroyed during the Reformation in 1545. Today, 3 churches serve the spiritual needs of the 3 communities associated with the area of the street. Temple Church was built by the Knights Templar in 1162 and serves the legal profession. St Bride's Church was established as early as the 6th century and was later designed by Sir Christopher Wren in a style that complemented St Mary le Bow. Further east in the city, it remains the London church most associated with the print industry. St Dunstan in the west also dates from the 12th century, supplements these as a local parish, as opposed to Guild Church, and is the London home for the Romanian Orthodox Church. To the south lies an area of legal buildings known as the Temple, formerly property of the Knights Templar, which, at its core, includes 2 of the 4 Inns of Court, the Inner Temple and the Middle Temple. There are many lawyers' offices, especially barristers' chambers, in the vicinity. The gatehouse to the Middle Temple Lane was built by St Christopher Wren in 1684. To the west, at the junction with the Strand, are the Royal Courts of Justice, while at the eastern end of the street, the Old Bailey is near Ludgate Circus. As a principal route leading to and from the city, Fleet Street was especially noted for its taverns and coffee houses. Many notable persons of literary and political fame, such as Samuel Johnson, frequented these, and journalists would regularly meet in pubs to collect stories. Some, such as the Old Cock Tavern at number 22 and the Old Cheshire Cheese at number 145, have survived to the 21st century and are Grade 2 listed. The Elvino's Wine Bar moved to number 47 in 1923, quickly becoming popular with lawyers and journalists. Women were not allowed in the bar until 1982, and only then because of a court order. The Old Bank of England, which from 1888 to 1975 was a trading house for the country's central bank, is now a Grade 2 listed pub. Since 1971, the southern side of the street has been part of the Fleet Street Conservation Area, which ensures buildings are regularly maintained and the character of the street is preserved. The area expanded to the north side in 1981. Around Fleet Street contains numerous statues and memorials to prominent public figures. At the northeastern corner is a bust of Edgar Wallace and a full-length representation of Mary Queen of Scots in a first-floor niche at 144, commissioned by John Tollmarsh Sinclair. Above the entrance to the old schoolhouse of St Dunstan's is a statue of Queen Elizabeth I, provided for the then-new Ludgate in 1586 by William Curwen. It was moved to here following the gate's demolition in 1776. Adjacent to this is a bust of Lord Northcliffe, the newspaper proprietor, co-founder of the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror. On the southern side of the street, nearby memorials and monuments include the Temple Bar marker, with a Temple Bar, a gateway, used to stand until it was removed in 1878. The marker was designed by Sir Horace Jones in 1880, and it's a statue of a griffin at the top, lending its name of the Griffin, and the statue of Queen Victoria in a niche on the side. In the Inner Temple Gardens is a memorial to Charles Lamb. In Salisbury Square, there's an obelisk commemorating Robert Whitman, Mayor of London between 1823 and 1833, and a blue plaque commemorating the birthplace of diarist and Naval Secretary Samuel Pepys. So, I hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Fleet Street. Whatever podcast service you use to listen to this, please do subscribe to get updates on new shows, and also do please leave us some feedback. Please let me know any places you'd like us to feature in the future, just like this one, and you can let me know through our website www.thehistoryoflondon.com. londonvisited.co.uk, by emailing me directly on londonvisited@gmail.com, or you can contact us on Twitter and Instagram on @LondonVisited or Facebook on @TheLondonVisited. Thanks for listening. We really do appreciate it and really hope you enjoyed our podcast. And we'll see you soon on the next one. Bye.